Take one for Grimm Fairy Tale Story 1. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. This is Athena here, and today we will be listening to The Frog King, or Iron Henry. This is the complete Grimm's Fairy Tales. The Frog King, or Iron Henry. In the old times, when wishing still helped one, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful, but the youngest was so beautiful that the sun itself, which had seen so much, was astonished whenever it shone in her face. Close by the king's castle lay a great dark forest, and under an old lime tree in the forest was a well, and when the day was very warm, the king's child went out into the forest and sat down by the upside of the cool fountain. When she was dull, she took a golden ball and threw it up on high and caught it, and this ball was her favorite plaything. Now it so happened that on one occasion the princess's golden ball did not fall into the little hand which she was holding up for it, but onto the ground beyond, and rolled straight into the water. The king's daughter followed it with her eyes, but it vanished, and the well was deep, so deep that the bottom could not be seen. On this she began to cry, and cried louder and louder, and could not be comforted. And as she lamented, someone said to her, "What aileth thee, king's daughter? Thou weepest, so that even a stone should show pity." She looked round to the side whence the voice came, and saw a frog stretching forth its thick, ugly head from the water. "Ah, old water scratcher, is thou?" said she. "I am weeping for my golden ball, which has fallen into the well." "Be quiet and do not weep," answered the frog. "I can help thee, but what wilt thee give me if I bring thy plaything up again?" "Whatever thou wilt have, dear frog," said she. "My clothes, my pearls, my jewels, and even the golden crown which I am wearing." The frog answers, "I do not care for thy clothes, thy pearls and jewels, or thy golden crown, but if thou wilt love me and let me be thy companion and playfellow, and sit by thee at thy little table, and eat off thy little golden plate, and drink out of thy little cup, and sleep in thy little bed, if thou wilt promise me this, I will go down below and bring thee thy golden ball up again." "Oh yes," said she, "I promise thee all thou wishes, if thou wilt but bring me up my ball back again." She, however, thought, how does the silly frog talk? He lives in the water with other frogs and crooks, and can be no companion to any human being. But the frog, when he had received his promise, put his head into the water and sank down, and in a short time came swimming up again with the ball in his mouth, and threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was delighted to see her pretty plaything once more, and picked it up and ran away with it. "Wait, wait," said the frog. "Take me with thee. I cannot run as thou canst." But what did it avail to him to scream his croak after her as loudly as he could? She did not listen to it, but ran home and soon forgot the poor frog, who was forced to go back into his well again. The next day, when she had seated herself at a table with the king and all the courtiers, and was eating from her little golden plate, something came creeping, splish, splash, splish, splash, up the marble staircase, and when it had gotten to the top, it knocked at the door and cried, "Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me." She ran to see who was outside, and when she opened the door, there sat the frog frog in front of it. And then she slammed the door to in great haste and sat down to dinner again, and was quite frightened. The king saw plainly that her heart was beating violently, and said, "My child, what art thou so afraid of? Is there perchance a giant outside who wants to carry thee away?" "Ah, no," replied she, "it is no giant, but a disgusting frog." "What does the frog want with thee?" "Oh, dear father, yesterday when I was in the forest, sitting by the well playing with my golden ball, it fell into the water, and because I cried, the frog brought it out again for me. And because he insisted so on it, I promised him he could be my companion, but I never thought that he would be able to come out of the water, and now he's outside there and wants to come into me." In the meantime, it knocked a second time and cried, "Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me. Dost thou not know what thou saidst to me yesterday by the cool waters of the fountain? Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me." Then said the king, "That which thou hast promised, must thou perform. Go and let him in." She went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in and followed her step by step to her chair. There he sat and cried, "Lift me up beside thee." She delayed until at last the king commanded her to do it. When the frog was once on the chair, he wanted to be on the table, and when he was on the table, he said, "Now push thy little golden plate nearer to me so that we may eat together." She did this, but it was easy to say that she did not do it willingly. The frog enjoyed what he ate, but almost every mouthful she took, she choked. At length he said, "I have eaten, and I am satisfied. Now I am tired. Carry me into thy little room, and make thy little silken bed ready, and we will both lie down and go to sleep." The king's daughter began to cry, for she was afraid of the cold frog, which she did not like to touch, which was now to sleep in her pretty clean little bed. The king grew angry and said, "He who helped thee when thou wert into trouble ought not afterwards to be despised by thee." So she took hold of the frog with 2 fingers and carried him upstairs and put him in the corner. But when she was in bed, he crept to her and said, "I am tired. I want to sleep as well as thou. Lift me up, or I will tell thy father." Then she was terribly angry and took him up and threw him with all her might against the wall. "Now thou wilt be quite a beauteous frog," said she. But when he fell down, he was no frog, but a king's son with beautiful kind eyes. He, by her father's will, was now her dear companion and husband. Then he told her how he had been bewitched by a wicked witch, and how no one could have delivered him from the well but herself. And the next morning they would go back together into his kingdom. Then they went to sleep, and the next morning, when the sun awoke them, a carriage came driving up with 8 white horses, which had white ostrich feathers on their heads, and were harnessed with golden chains. And behind stood the king's loyal servant, Faithful Henry. Faithful Henry had been so unhappy when his master had changed into a frog that he had caused 3 iron bands to be laid around his heart, lest it should burst in grief and sadness. The carriage was to conduct the king to his kingdom. Faithful Henry helped them both in and placed himself behind again. And when they had driven half the part of the way, the king's son heard a cracking behind him as if something had broken. So he turned around and cried, "Henry, the carriage is breaking." "No, master, it is not the carriage. It is the band from my heart, which was put in the great pain when you were a frog and imprisoned in the well." Again and once again, while they were on their way, something cracked, and each time the king's son thought the carriage was breaking, but it was only the bands on which were springing from the heart of faithful Henry, because his master was set free and happy. The end. Thank you for sitting by the fireplace with me and listening to the story of the Frog King, or Iron Henry. I will post the links in the description for the fireplace and the book on Amazon. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means a great deal for me. This is a little new setup I have, and as I explained before in my last video, I'm trying this out, and if you guys like it, all I need you to do is support me by liking this video, subscribing to me, and commenting on it. So, thank you guys for listening. Links and announcements are in the description. This is not sponsored.